The stars outside the cockpit of the scout ship stretched endlessly, a vast tapestry of light and darkness. Captain Jason Cole leaned back in his chair, letting the hum of the engines fill the quiet cabin. His mission had been simple: explore uncharted planets, collect data, and report anything unusual. But simple missions often led to unexpected discoveries, and Jason had learned to expect the unexpected. When the ship's sensors first detected the planet, Jason felt a thrill he had grown accustomed to over the years. The readings were unusual, energy patterns not consistent with any known world, terrain that shifted slightly in the scans as if alive. It was beautiful in a way that felt almost unreal, a mixture of deep green forests, silver rivers, and floating mist that reflected the faint light of the distant sun. He landed carefully on a flat plateau, the landing gear sinking slightly into the soft soil. Stepping outside, Jason felt the weight of silence. The air was breathable, though it carried a strange, sweet scent like a mixture of flowers and minerals. He activated his scanner, sweeping the area for signs of life. The readings were minimal at first, small creatures, almost invisible, darting through the foliage. But then he saw her. She was standing at the edge of the plateau, partially hidden among the towering plants. Jason froze, unsure if he should approach. The alien woman's appearance was like nothing he had ever seen. She was slender, taller than most humans, with skin that seemed almost translucent. Light glimmered beneath her surface, shifting softly with every movement. Her eyes, large and silver, reflected the forest around her, catching the sunlight like mirrors. She didn't speak, but Jason felt a presence, a silent awareness that seemed to study him as carefully as he studied her. Jason slowly lowered his scanner, not wanting to alarm her. He raised a hand, a simple gesture of peace. To his surprise, she mirrored him, raising her hand in a cautious acknowledgement. Communication would be difficult. There was no shared language, but he had dealt with strange life forms before. Sometimes gestures, expressions, and patience could bridge even the widest gaps. He approached slowly, keeping his hands visible. The woman did not retreat. She moved with a grace that seemed almost liquid, her steps silent despite the uneven ground. Jason noticed faint patterns glowing along her arms and shoulders, perhaps natural markings or a form of communication. He crouched slightly, lowering his height to seem less threatening, and held out his hand again. For a moment she hesitated. Then, ever so slightly, she touched his hand with hers. The contact was brief but electric, and Jason felt a surge of understanding, almost as if a silent bond had formed. He smiled, speaking softly in English, though he knew she wouldn't understand. "It's okay. I won't hurt you." She tilted her head, studying him. Then she stepped back and gestured toward the forest beyond the plateau. Jason understood the message. She wanted guidance, perhaps protection, or maybe simply companionship for a short time. He nodded and moved slowly toward the trees, keeping his distance. As they walked, Jason noticed the subtle ways she interacted with the environment. When she touched a plant, it seemed to shimmer or bend slightly toward her, as if recognizing her presence. Birds of unusual shapes and colors watched silently from above, their eyes glinting like tiny gems. Jason realized that this planet responded to her in ways it did not to him. She was connected to it, more than a visitor, almost like part of its living system. They reached a clearing where a small stream glimmered in the sunlight. The woman knelt and touched the water, causing faint ripples that seemed to glow with a soft inner light. Jason knelt beside her, careful not to intrude, and watched in awe. He had explored many worlds, but nothing had prepared him for this level of harmony between a being and her environment. After a while, she stood and looked at him, her expression unreadable. Jason took a deep breath. He could study her, bring her aboard his ship, perhaps learn about her species, her abilities, and her planet. It would be a groundbreaking discovery, one that could change everything humans knew about life beyond Earth. Yet, as he looked into her eyes, he hesitated. There was intelligence, curiosity, and something that felt like trust, but it was fragile. Forcing her to leave her world, to take her against her will, would break that trust. Jason had always believed in the importance of choice, even in situations where knowledge and progress were at stake, and he realized that some discoveries were not worth the cost of someone else's freedom. He spoke again, softly. "I'm not going to stop you. You can go whenever you want." The alien woman seemed to consider this. She watched him carefully, then nodded, a slight, almost imperceptible movement. Jason understood her choice. She trusted him enough to leave on her own terms. For the next hour they walked along the stream, Jason learning what little he could about her world through observation. She pointed toward certain plants, touched the water, and gestured at the sky, as if sharing pieces of her life. Jason recorded everything in his notebook, careful not to overwhelm her with technology or questions. Eventually, they reached the edge of the forest, where a soft glow marked the beginning of a natural clearing. She stopped, facing him fully. Jason stepped back, giving her space. She raised her hand one last time, a gesture of farewell, and then stepped into the light. For a brief moment, her form seemed to shimmer, blending almost perfectly with the environment. Then she was gone. Jason stood alone, the forest quiet around him. The wind rustled softly, carrying the faint scent of the alien flora. He felt a mixture of satisfaction and emptiness. He had made the right choice, respecting her freedom, but a part of him ached at the thought of never seeing her again. Back on his ship, Jason reviewed the data he had collected. The readings from the planet were unlike anything he had ever encountered. Energy fields shifted unpredictably, as if alive, responding to some unseen intelligence, and though he had been careful not to interfere, he could feel that the presence of the alien woman had left a mark on the readings, a subtle change in the planet's energy patterns. Jason knew one thing for certain: this encounter would stay with him, not just as a record of scientific discovery, but as a memory of connection, trust, and the rare choice to let kindness guide action rather than curiosity or ambition. As the ship lifted off from the plateau, Jason looked down at the forest below. The sunlight shimmered across the trees, and he thought he saw a faint glimmer like a reflection of silver eyes watching him from the distance. He smiled quietly. Perhaps this was not the end. Perhaps in her own way she would find a way to show her gratitude or to reach out again. For now, Jason focused on returning to the routine of his mission. But deep down he felt a renewed sense of purpose. The universe was vast and full of wonders he had yet to see. Some of those wonders were creatures and worlds, but some were moments, small, fleeting connections that reminded him why he had become an explorer in the first place. As the stars stretched endlessly outside his viewport, Jason knew one thing. He would never forget the alien woman, and he would never regret letting her go. Days passed after Jason Cole's encounter with the alien woman, but he could not stop thinking about her. Back on the scout ship, he went through routine checks and explored nearby sectors, yet his mind drifted constantly to that shimmering figure in the forest. Even the crew noticed his distraction. Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command, gave him a teasing glance during one briefing. "You've been staring out the viewport all day," she said lightly. "The stars aren't going to give themselves away, Captain." Jason smiled faintly, but he did not respond. He knew what Mara would never understand. Some discoveries were not about science or data. They were about connection. Unable to shake his thoughts, Jason reviewed the scans from the planet. The energy readings were still unusual, almost alive. He ran simulations, trying to determine the source of the subtle shifts in the field. Every scan pointed to one conclusion. Something, or someone, was influencing the planet's energy. He suspected it was her, Captain Mara said, approaching with a tablet in hand. "You've been tracking the energy fluctuations for days. Are you sure it's safe?" Jason nodded. "It's safe, I just need to understand." He activated a remote probe, sending it to the coordinates where he had first met the alien woman. The probe floated silently over the terrain, scanning for life, energy, and unusual signals. The readings immediately spiked near the forest clearing. Jason leaned forward, intrigued. The signals were faint but precise, almost as if they were being deliberately controlled. "Interesting," he muttered. "She's still here. Or she's left some sort of mark behind." Mara raised an eyebrow. "A mark, you mean on the planet?" Jason nodded. "Yes, and it's not just a physical mark. The energy here, it's alive. It moves, responds, and seems aware of us." He spent the next hours analyzing the data. Every reading hinted at intelligence, but not the type humans had seen before. It was subtle, patient, and deeply connected to the planet itself. Jason realized he was observing something extraordinary, a species in perfect harmony with its environment. Despite the scientific excitement, Jason felt a personal pull. He wondered if the alien woman remembered him, if she had noticed his choice to let her go. He thought of her eyes, liquid silver, calm, and yet full of unspoken emotion. He felt a quiet anticipation, a hope that she might return in her own way. That evening, Jason stood on the observation deck, looking out at the planet. The sun had dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the forest. The wind carried a faint shimmer of light, almost like the glow he had seen on her skin. He could not tell if it was a trick of the atmosphere or a message, but his heart stirred. "Captain," Mara said from behind him, "you've been staring at that planet for days. Don't you think it's time to move on?" Jason shook his head slowly. Some things, some moments, can't be rushed. They reveal themselves in their own time. Mara sighed, smiling. "You and your philosophical thoughts? Just don't get lost out there." Jason smiled faintly, though his mind was elsewhere. That night sleep came reluctantly. Even in dreams he saw her. She moved gracefully through the glowing forests, her silver eyes watching him, sometimes near, sometimes distant, always just out of reach. The next morning, Jason returned to the planet, but this time he brought more equipment. Small drones hovered above the forest, scanning for energy fluctuations. He walked along the plateau where he had first met her, observing the streams, trees, and plants. Every element seemed more alive now, as if the planet remembered her presence. He activated a handheld sensor, feeling the subtle vibrations in the air. It was faint, almost like a heartbeat. Jason followed it slowly, careful not to disrupt the delicate balance around him. The forest seemed quieter, the sounds more subdued, as if waiting. Hours passed without any sign of her, but Jason refused to leave. He studied the plants, the soil, the energy patterns, trying to understand her connection to the world. Slowly, he realized something remarkable. The alien woman's presence had changed the planet even in her absence. Small plants glowed brighter, subtle energy streams shifted, and even the creatures seemed calmer. Jason knelt beside a cluster of luminescent flowers and traced their patterns with his finger. He wondered if she had touched them here, if this was part of her communication. It was a thought that filled him with awe. Whatever species she belonged to, they were capable of extraordinary interaction with their surroundings. He spent days in this careful observation. Each day brought small revelations. He noticed that certain rocks emitted faint pulses of energy when touched by sunlight, as if responding to his presence. The streams reflected not just light, but subtle waves of energy that he could measure with his instruments. Jason realized he was learning not just about the planet, but about a kind of life that humans had never encountered before. Intelligent, sensitive, and deeply intertwined with its environment. Evenings were the hardest. As the sun set, Jason often walked to the edge of the plateau and stared at the horizon, hoping, wishing, imagining that she might appear. Sometimes he swore he saw a flicker of silver among the trees just for a moment, gone before he could focus. Each time his heart leapt only to settle again in quiet longing. He recorded everything meticulously: maps, energy readings, observations of flora and fauna, and even the subtle changes that seemed tied to her presence. He realized that her return might not be physical. She might communicate or influence from afar in ways humans could barely understand. On the fourth day, Jason noticed something different. A faint pattern of energy appeared near the clearing where he had first met her. It pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. He moved toward it cautiously. As he approached, he saw traces of movement, delicate imprints in the soil, the glow of disturbed plants. Someone or something had been here recently. Jason's pulse quickened. Could it be her? Had she returned? He activated a drone to hover above the clearing, scanning for life forms. The readings showed faint traces of bioenergy, unlike anything recorded in human databases. It was familiar, almost like a signature, an intelligence he had come to recognize. "Lieutenant Mara," he said over the comm, "I think she's back." Mara's voice crackled in reply, slightly skeptical. "Back? You mean the alien woman?" Jason nodded, though she could not see him. "Yes, I'm not sure how long she's been here, but there's energy. It's faint, subtle, but it's definitely her." The rest of the day passed in careful preparation. Jason made sure his equipment was ready. His ship systems were on standby and the drones were positioned strategically. He wanted to observe her without frightening her, to understand without interference. As night fell, the forest shimmered with soft bioluminescence. Jason activated a handheld energy sensor, following the subtle pulses. The pattern led him to a narrow path among towering plants, and then he saw it. a faint silhouette moving with grace emerging from the glow. His heart leapt. She was real. She was here. And this time she moved not as if lost, but with purpose. Jason held his breath as she approached, her silver eyes fixed on him, glowing faintly in the moonlight. She carried something in her hands, a small, glowing object, unlike anything Jason had seen before. It pulsed gently, almost as if alive. She held it out to him, her gesture clear. It was a gift. Jason stepped forward slowly, careful not to startle her. He reached out and took it gently. The object vibrated slightly at his touch, and a warm, calming energy seemed to flow through him. He realized that this was more than a gift. It was a message, a token of trust, a bridge between their worlds. The alien woman nodded slightly, watching him with calm, intelligent eyes. Jason understood then that her return was not accidental. She had come back intentionally, choosing to show trust and gratitude. He spoke softly. I didn't expect this. She tilted her head, a simple gesture that conveyed acknowledgement. Jason realized that her species might communicate differently, through gestures, actions, and shared energy, rather than words. And in that moment he felt a deeper connection than ever before. An understanding that kindness, respect, and trust could transcend language, species, and worlds. Jason held the gift carefully, examining its intricate patterns. It pulsed softly, resonating with the subtle energy of the planet. He realized that it contained knowledge, guidance, and perhaps even a way to understand her species and their connection to the world. It was a remarkable gift, both practical and symbolic. For the first time since he had met her, Jason felt a sense of joy and anticipation. The encounter had begun with caution and uncertainty, but now it was full of promise and possibility. He knew that this moment could mark the beginning of something extraordinary, not just a scientific discovery, but a bond between two very different beings, a connection that might change everything he thought he knew about life in the universe. Jason looked at her one last time, as the glow of the object reflected in her silver eyes. She gave a small, graceful bow, then stepped back into the shimmering forest. This time she did not disappear completely. Her presence lingered, like a faint memory in the air, a reminder that she could return whenever she wished. Jason stood in the clearing, holding the gift, feeling a mixture of wonder and responsibility. The universe was vast, full of mysteries and life beyond imagination. But moments like this, small, delicate, and deeply meaningful, reminded him why he had chosen to explore. Jason Cole stood in the clearing, still holding the glowing object the alien woman had left him. Its soft, pulsing light felt warm, almost alive, and he could sense a quiet energy flowing from it. He carefully examined the device, turning it in his hands, trying to understand its purpose. The patterns on its surface shifted slightly, like a puzzle waiting to be solved. The forest around him was calm, almost expectant. The faint hum of energy from the trees and streams seemed to respond to the object in his hands. Jason realized that the gift was not just a token of trust, it was connected to the planet itself. Its energy resonated with the subtle life around him, almost as if it could communicate with the world. He activated a small analyzer on his wrist, trying to measure the energy levels. The readings were unlike anything he had ever seen. The object seemed to store knowledge in a way that was both biological and technological, merging living energy with patterns that suggested intelligence far beyond human understanding. Jason felt a thrill run through him. This was more than a gift. It was a key to understanding a species that had mastered harmony with their world. Jason looked up, half expecting to see the alien woman watching him from the forest. She was not there, but he sensed her presence. It was subtle, like a faint ripple in the air, a quiet reassurance that she was nearby, observing, waiting. He decided to follow the energy patterns emanating from the device. The path led deeper into the forest, through groves of luminous trees and along streams that shimmered like liquid light. Every step Jason took seemed to awaken the environment. Flowers glowed brighter, small creatures scuttled playfully across the ground, and the air hummed with a gentle vibration. It was as if the planet itself was alive in a way humans had never imagined, responding to both the alien woman and the gift she had given him. After a while, Jason reached a clearing unlike any he had seen before. In the center was a pool of water, perfectly still and reflecting the sky like a mirror. Around it, stones were arranged in a circle, each one glowing faintly. Jason knelt beside the pool and placed the glowing object on one of the stones. The moment it touched the surface, the water began to ripple, and images appeared above it like a holographic projection. He gasped softly. The projections showed maps of the planet, hidden energy sources, pathways through the forests, and locations of structures that seemed ancient, abandoned, yet filled with purpose. Jason realized that the alien woman had left him a guide, not just a gift. She was sharing knowledge of her world, allowing him to explore and understand it safely. Jason spent hours studying the projections, noting every detail. He traced paths along the streams, marked locations of glowing plants, and memorized the patterns of energy that flowed through the forests. Each discovery was a marvel, revealing a planet more complex and alive than he had ever imagined. As he worked, he noticed movement at the edge of the clearing. The alien woman emerged from the trees, her presence graceful and calm. She did not speak, but her eyes met his, conveying understanding and curiosity. Jason smiled and held up the device. She nodded, acknowledging that he had understood its purpose. Slowly, she gestured for him to follow her deeper into the forest. Jason hesitated only briefly before moving forward, keeping a careful distance. As they walked, he noticed how she interacted with the environment. When she touched a plant, it glowed brighter. When she stepped near a stream, the water seemed to ripple toward her. It was clear that she was not just part of the planet. She influenced it, nurtured it, and communicated with it in ways humans could barely comprehend. Jason followed her through winding paths, across moss-covered stones and over small streams that glimmered with energy. She led him to a place where the trees formed a natural dome, their branches interweaving like a cathedral ceiling. Sunlight filtered through, casting intricate patterns on the ground. In the center of the dome was a small structure, built from stones that pulsed with faint energy. She gestured for Jason to enter. Inside, he found walls covered with carvings, glowing faintly in the dim light. The carvings depicted scenes of her species interacting with the planet, shaping it, communicating with its energy, and learning from it. Jason realized that this was a library of knowledge, a record of generations living in harmony with the world. He ran his fingers over the carvings, feeling a strange warmth, almost as if the energy of the planet flowed through them. The alien woman watched silently, allowing him to explore. Jason understood that this place was sacred, a repository of wisdom and a testament to the connection between her people and the planet. Hours passed, and Jason learned more than he had in years of exploration. He discovered patterns of energy that could be harnessed safely, locations of rare plants with unique properties, and the ways her species communicated without words. Every detail was a revelation, showing a level of intelligence and harmony far beyond human understanding. As the sun began to set, the alien woman led him outside. The forest glowed softly in the evening light, and the air was filled with the gentle hum of energy. She gestured for Jason to sit on a stone nearby. Slowly, she reached out, touching his shoulder lightly, a gesture of connection, reassurance, and perhaps gratitude. Jason felt a deep sense of respect for her and her species. They had mastered living in balance with their world, understanding and communicating with it in ways humans could barely imagine. And yet, she had chosen to share this knowledge with him, to guide him safely and trust him with her secrets. He spoke softly. "Thank you for trusting me." She tilted her head, a simple gesture that conveyed acknowledgement. No words were needed. Jason realized that some connections went beyond language, that trust, kindness, and respect could be understood across species, even across galaxies. As night fell, the forest transformed. Bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, streams shimmered with energy, and the air was filled with a gentle, almost musical hum. Jason sat quietly, observing, learning, and feeling a sense of wonder he had never experienced before. The alien woman remained nearby, moving gracefully among the trees, ensuring that the environment remained balanced. Jason watched her, realizing that this planet, this world, and this species were extraordinary, and he felt honored to witness it, to be allowed into their world, even if only briefly. Before he left the dome, the alien woman gestured toward the device in his hand. Jason understood that it was more than a tool. It was a bridge between their worlds. She had given him not just knowledge, but a connection, a way to understand her people, and perhaps a chance to return safely in the future. Jason held the device carefully, knowing that it represented trust, responsibility, and opportunity. He had seen incredible things in his career, but nothing like this. The planet was alive, intelligent, and beautiful, and she had chosen to share it with him. As he prepared to leave the forest, he felt a quiet anticipation. The alien woman watched him from the shadows, her silver eyes shimmering in the dim light. Jason waved, and she nodded in response, a silent promise that their paths might cross again. He returned to his ship, carrying the glowing object carefully. The scans and projections filled his databanks, providing maps, energy readings, and insights that would take months to analyze fully. But more than the data, he carried an experience, a memory, and a bond that could not be measured in numbers. As the ship lifted off from the forest, Jason looked down at the glowing canopy. He thought he saw a flicker of silver among the trees, like her eyes watching him one last time. He smiled quietly, knowing that this was not the end. The alien woman had returned, shared her world, and left him with a gift that went beyond knowledge. It was a gift of trust, connection, and possibility, a reminder that kindness, respect, and patience could create extraordinary bonds, even across species. Jason knew that his journey was far from over. There were still mysteries to uncover, connections to explore, and perhaps one day, the alien woman might return in person to guide him further. For now, he looked forward to the challenges ahead, carrying the glow of her gift and the memory of her presence. The universe was vast, full of wonders, but moments like these, rare, fragile, and deeply meaningful, reminded him why he had chosen to explore in the first place. And in that quiet, glowing forest somewhere beyond the reach of his scanners, the alien woman watched silently, knowing that her trust had been honored and that the human before her was worthy of it. Jason Cole stood at the edge of the glowing forest, the alien woman's gift safely secured in his hands. Its soft pulse mirrored the heartbeat of the planet, steady and reassuring. He knew that every moment he had spent here had changed him. Not just as an explorer, but as a human being, someone capable of understanding, respect, and connection with life far beyond his world. The alien woman emerged from the trees, moving with the same graceful confidence as before. Her silver eyes reflected the soft light of the bioluminescent plants around them. This time there was no hesitation, no caution. She moved with purpose, as if she had returned not only to guide him but to share something deeper. Jason stepped forward carefully, keeping a respectful distance. "You came back," he said softly. She tilted her head slightly, a gesture that seemed both affirmation and curiosity. Then, without speaking, she gestured for him to follow her deeper into the forest. Jason nodded and moved forward, feeling a sense of anticipation unlike anything he had experienced before. They walked along a narrow path lined with luminous plants, streams reflecting light in delicate patterns. Each step felt intentional, as if the planet itself guided their movement. Jason realized that her return was not just a gift of knowledge, it was an invitation, a chance to understand her world in ways he could never have imagined alone. Eventually, they reached a natural amphitheater formed by towering trees and cascading streams. In the center was a pool of water, its surface perfectly still. The alien woman stopped at the edge, and Jason noticed that the glow from the pool intensified as she approached. She gestured for him to place the device, the gift, onto the water. As soon as it touched the surface, the pool came alive with light. Holographic images emerged, showing landscapes, structures, and creatures that Jason had never seen. The gift acted as a key, unlocking the secrets of the planet and revealing how her species had lived in harmony with it for generations. Jason studied the projections in awe. He saw vast energy networks, glowing plants with unique properties, and structures that seemed designed to harness the planet's energy safely. He realized that her people had mastered a balance that humans could only dream of, using knowledge, observation, and respect rather than force. The alien woman watched him silently, her gestures gentle and precise, guiding his attention without overwhelming him. Jason felt a profound sense of trust and responsibility. She had shared this knowledge with him, and it was now his duty to honor it. Hours passed as Jason explored the projections and absorbed every detail. He mapped energy flows, noted the locations of rare resources, and understood the principles that allowed her species to thrive in harmony with their environment. Each discovery deepened his respect for her and for the world they were on. As the sun began to set, the alien woman stepped closer. She extended a hand, a gesture of connection that transcended words. Jason hesitated only for a moment before reaching out, and their fingers touched lightly. The moment was brief, but it carried a weight of understanding, trust, and shared experience that neither needed to speak aloud. Jason felt a warmth spread through him, not just from the touch but from the acknowledgement that he had been accepted into her world, if only temporarily. The alien woman's eyes reflected light like liquid silver, and in them, Jason saw something he had never expected, a recognition of his humanity, his choices, and his capacity to care. She then gestured toward the pool, and Jason understood. The gift, the planet, and their shared exploration had created a bond. She was offering him a deeper understanding, a chance to be a part of something extraordinary, even as a visitor. Jason knelt beside the pool, touching the water lightly. The projections shifted, showing him areas he had not yet explored, hidden groves, energy-rich caves, and plants with unique abilities. Each location was accompanied by faint symbols, subtle instructions on how to interact without disrupting the natural balance. He realized that this was more than knowledge, it was guidance. She was teaching him how to observe, respect, and learn from the environment, not to control it. And in that moment, Jason understood a truth he had only glimpsed before. Intelligence was not measured by power or technology, but by understanding, empathy, and the ability to live in harmony with the world around you. The alien woman moved closer, placing her hand on the pool's surface. The energy rippled outward, interacting with the gift and the projections. Jason felt a rush of information, not in words, but in understanding, a connection that transcended language. He saw the history of her people, their care for the planet, and the wisdom they had accumulated over countless generations. Jason sat back, overwhelmed but inspired. He had always sought to explore, to discover, but this was different. This was not about conquest or ownership. It was about respect, connection, and learning from something greater than himself. He realized that his role was not to take or control, but to witness, understand, and carry the knowledge responsibly. As night fell, the forest transformed into a sea of soft lights. Bioluminescent plants glowed brighter, and the streams reflected patterns of energy that danced across the ground. The alien woman gestured for Jason to follow her one last time. They walked to the edge of a cliff that overlooked a valley bathed in moonlight. The entire landscape shimmered with energy, alive and breathing. She raised her hands slowly, palms outward, and Jason noticed that the entire valley responded. Streams of light flowed like rivers, plants glowed, and small creatures moved in harmony with the energy. It was a living symphony, and he realized that she was not merely observing it, she was a part of it, a conductor guiding the balance. Jason felt awe and humility. He had seen incredible worlds before, but none like this. None had combined beauty, intelligence, and harmony in a way that felt alive. And she had trusted him enough to let him witness it, to let him carry a piece of it back with him. She turned to him, eyes reflecting the glowing valley. Jason understood her message without words. The gift was not just knowledge, it was trust. It was a symbol of connection between two beings from different worlds, a reminder that kindness, respect, and understanding could bridge even the greatest divides. Jason nodded slowly, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. He reached into his pack and took out a small recorder, speaking softly as he documented everything. The valley, the energy flows, the principles of balance, and his experiences with her. He knew that this information could change humanity's understanding of life, energy, and intelligence across the universe. The alien woman watched silently, her presence serene and reassuring. Jason realized that the bond they shared was rare and precious. It was built on respect, observation, and a willingness to let trust guide their actions. He felt honored to be part of it, even as a temporary visitor. As the night deepened, the alien woman gestured for Jason to rest, He found a comfortable spot near the pool, keeping the gift close. The soft glow of energy surrounded him, and he felt a calm he had never known before. Sleep came easily, filled with visions of the glowing forest, the shimmering valley, and the bond he shared with the mysterious being who had chosen to trust him. When he awoke, the alien woman was gone. The forest was quiet, the stream still shimmering faintly, and the gift pulsing gently in his hands. Jason felt a mix of longing and understanding. She had left, but the lessons, the experiences, and the trust remained. He stood and looked out over the valley, feeling a sense of purpose. The universe was vast, filled with wonders he could barely imagine, and yet moments like this, moments of connection, understanding, and respect, reminded him why he had chosen to explore. The alien woman's gift was more than knowledge. It was a symbol of the potential for harmony between worlds, a reminder that even across galaxies, beings could understand and trust one another. Jason carefully returned to his ship, the gift secured and the data recorded. As he lifted off, he looked down at the forest one last time. Faint glimmers of silver light seemed to follow him, like the memory of her presence. He smiled quietly, knowing that this was not the end. The alien woman had returned once, and perhaps she would return again. The journey back to human space was quiet. Jason reviewed the data repeatedly, studying the energy flows, the maps, and the recordings of his experiences. Every detail was precious, a guide for understanding not just a planet, but a way of thinking and living. He thought often of the alien woman, her grace, her intelligence, and her choice to trust him. He realized that this encounter had changed him. He would return to Earth not just as an explorer, but as someone who had witnessed something extraordinary, something that reminded him of the power of kindness, patience, and respect. And somewhere, in the glowing forest of that distant planet, the alien woman watched silently, knowing that her gift had been received, her trust honored, and the bond between their worlds had been strengthened. Jason knew he would never forget her, nor the lessons she had shared. He carried them with him, a light in the darkness of space, a reminder that the universe was not just vast and unknown, but alive with intelligence, beauty, and the potential for connection across worlds.